Welcome to this episode of SDR News Live. I'm Andy McCaskey from SDR News, and we're continuing our series here, learning a little bit more about the world of teleconferencing. Recently, I was in Austin, Texas, a tech day hosted by Lifesize, and I had a chance to meet an educator who's been very involved in teleconferencing and these sorts of instructional technologies almost his entire career. I'd like to welcome Josh Murdoch from Valencia in Florida.
Hi, Andy. Good to be here. I'm Josh Murdoch, also known as Professor Josh, here in Orlando, Florida at Valencia College. So it's a community college here in Orlando, Florida.
Well, I know that you've had quite an academic career, and as I looked at your, some of your profile and materials there, you have a wide range of educational technology, which is only fitting for someone who's a professor of such.
Yeah, I've been in higher ed for over 15 years myself in a variety of different kind of areas from IT to learning support. I also have jumped into being a professor for about 10 years, looking at teaching educational technologies, student success, social networking, a variety of different places I've taught in those areas, and really kind of focusing on really educational technology and training our future K through 12 teachers.
Well, if we go back many, many years, the notion of educational television, probably 50 years ago, was on the scene. And as things have evolved, one of the things that Lifesize talked about was the notion of sharing versus the notion of showing. And it sounds like maybe there's a big change afoot in the educational world.
Yeah, I definitely see a huge change with all the different development and online and also just virtual conversations, the conversations that happen outside the traditional classroom, whether it be online office hours, students talking with other students, planning group work. Everyone has lives, and a lot more complications come to lives nowadays between family, work, job, school, everything going on all at once. Figuring out how to get together at one time is sometimes impossible for people, or communicate with their professors. So you're seeing a lot more of video and sharing and talking about things in an online format now, as opposed to maybe just 10 years ago. You wouldn't have seen that. You're going to meet face to face with your group. You're going to go to your professor's office to talk with them for their office hours.
Well, I think many of the same forces that are driving bring your own device in the corporate IT environment have to be affecting education profoundly.
Yeah, I definitely think, changing that idea of, students aren't just learning to take in information. They're learning to really prepare themselves for future careers, whether it be, running that online meeting, working as a worker that's virtual, that's not in a traditional office cubicle within that company. They're working from home. Just bringing in a different kind of mindset of all the different opportunities, whether it be mobile, whether it be working virtually, whether it be trying to build a team that doesn't, actually meet face-to-face ever. Those teams that have formed, it's amazing to see how workplaces have changed, and those opportunities are really not just location-based anymore. You could work from anywhere a lot of times and communicate with those teams and build those teams, and it's becoming necessary because of the talent that's needed.
Well, it sounds like there really is a major emphasis on the collaborative aspect of things, as opposed to the traditional lecture of putting out the information and showing basically a replication of the classroom experience.
Yeah, I definitely see, a change. A lot's being talked about with the flipped classroom model, where students are learning things beforehand, whether it be by video, material they're going through, and then coming into the classroom and collaborating with their classmates on, and working with the instructor on solving real problems. Coming in with that knowledge already. And you're also seeing that, the collaboration piece is it's a millennial. As millennials, keep going through education, this generation really is about teamwork, about working together, about solving these problems. So it's a big circumstance that you're really thinking about how you're going to, build these future employees, how you're going to build this workforce that works together in this new virtual environment that technology has grown and changed so much in just the last few years. It keeps expanding and changing.
What sorts of tools are teachers using, and is it different through K through 12 as opposed to what you would see in undergraduate or even continuing ed?
I think you do see that different tools are being used, from video focus. When you talk about K through 12, you're talking about that probably walled garden kind of area. You're talking about a lot of more closed off proprietary systems. Maybe it's through their learning management system. Maybe it's through another portal they created, whether it be something like Life-Size, whether it be Blackboard Collaborate or a GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar. You're seeing all kinds of different ways that are formed. Higher ed, it's spread out. It's just anything you can get a hold of. A lot of times teachers come to me and say, I need to do office hours. How am I going to do these? Here's the tools we have, but there's also several tools available online for collaboration. A lot of people are starting to use Google Hangouts a lot more. Other tools, like at our institution, we're a Link client. So we use a Link for our team meetings and talking about what's going on and what's happening within our institution and using that video. We've used GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, all those kind of things to share video, voice, talk about things, have meetings, or have huge webinars with 500, 600 people on it, depending on the training and things we need to do. It's amazing the technology that's being used, and the things that are out there that are free also. Skype, people are using Google Hangouts, those type of things. Teachers are grabbing whatever resources they can find a lot of times in education to really provide that opportunity for learning to take place. They know their students need it. They know they have that virtual need. So other things, really it's what comes down to it is a lot of times also what is easy for them to use. It also builds into other systems too. So purchase of a large system would have to build into the learning management system very easily. There's things out there, a lot of times Big Blue Button, Blackboard Collaborate, those kind of things are being built into different learning management systems that are being able to connect. You're seeing video just thrive, whether it be just video recording, students recording video, this kind of video chat idea that you leave a message through video instead of typing. All those things take place and are part of the world of online learning, or just learning in general in an education institution, especially in the learning management system.
Well, it looks like you have an embarrassment of riches. I would think that one of the problems that an individual teacher or instructor would have would be trying to really understand what the best practices are for their particular discipline, their particular grade level.
I think that's a really hard, especially with so many tools out there and so many tools sometimes available at one institution, that one thing works better for another thing. One thing's easier to use for a different type. Holding a classroom lecture might be easier as one, while you're recording video and producing it and want to record it and keep it out there for someone else to view later on might be another way. So there's so much that you have to figure out, and there's plenty of people that are looking at how professional development, whether it be lecture capture capturing. UCF, University of Central Florida, has a great example of they use lecture capture, and using that, they required their faculty go through training before they start using those systems and be able to have that live broadcast, but also recorded broadcast for students that might be at other parts of their institution virtually, or might be watching it from home or needing to catch up on what happened or review it later on. So they're training their faculty before, and I think that's the big part with any kind of video or this new kind of learning is really figuring out the best practices. What works, what doesn't work. Is video what you want people to really capture, or does it need to be live, synchronous, asynchronous? Those type of things you have to start thinking about. And I think all these players coming into play, and what works best is what you really have to figure out, and sometimes get help from other professionals. Myself as an instructional designer or instructional technologist, or people that are the users of it and have tried it and tested it out. A lot of times that's what faculty look through, is other faculty with those.
Mm-hmm. What role do you see for standards? Kind of the joke is standards are wonderful because you have so many to choose from, but is that true in this environment from an educational perspective?
I think it's really hard to say what standards. I think you're looking at standards, at least I would hope so, in education as the content provided. But I think standards also, if you say this is the way everyone should do it, it kind of stops innovation happening too. It really doesn't allow people to experiment with these different tools. Hey, let's try this in our classroom. Let's see if this works with our students better. In one group of students, it might work great with. Another group, it wouldn't work at all. So I would hate to say, here's the standard way that everyone should do it across the board. Of course, there's going to be great tools that people can use and say, here's the best tool for that. But I think without that opportunity to experiment and try different things in a classroom or outside the classroom in this online environment is really going to kind of hinder innovation happening in the classroom or outside the classroom too.
What sort of resources would you recommend if an educator were trying to find out more, or even a concerned parent? Where would you start in learning how video and teleconferencing and interactive technology can be used in an educational setting?
I think you can definitely look at a lot of the different resources out there. I think if you're looking at video in general, go on YouTube and check out the EDU channel. The education channel has some amazing content that's being produced and shared out there. People are producing amazing things that are video oriented. If you start looking at how can we use this kind of video conferencing, I think there's plenty of things that are out there. And if you look at case studies, like LifeSize has some case studies on how it's being used, I think these case studies are perfect examples. A lot of people take several different systems into account when they're looking at how they're going to bring these in, and look at what they tried. So if you're really looking to find out a lot more, I talk about a lot of things related to educational technology. I'm a Google Glass Explorer, tracking out what is the latest things and what are some tips and tricks. My website is professorjosh.com. I'm also on Twitter at Professor Josh, or Facebook Professor Josh. So it's pretty easy to find me out there and reach out. Follow me, follow what's going on, and definitely feel free to ask any questions. So I'm definitely always available, and Professor Josh is the easy way to find me.
Well, Professor Josh, I would have to ask you, where are your Google Glass? You should have those for the interview and recorded the reverse.
I know. It's always interesting. I attended the iSummit yesterday and talked about wearable technology, and it's amazing to see the changes in that industry. And it definitely, I'm not the always wearer of Google Glass, so I definitely take some breaks and take it off for a while.
Well, I think that will be perhaps a subject of our next discussion here on SDR News Live. Josh, thanks very much for joining us. Thanks to you folks for joining us as well, and we'll see you next time. I'm Andy McCaskey for SDR News.